Alan here, and I'm in Saratoga, Wyoming, coming to you from Saratoga, Wyoming. It is cloudy, drizzly, rainy. It's almost like being in northwestern Washington. I feel like I'm in a temperate rainforest. There's been an unusual amount of rainfall, and you'll notice I said I'm in Saratoga, Wyoming, no longer Steamboat Lake, Colorado. Now, I was in Steamboat Lake, Colorado for a little bit over 4 months, about 4 months and 1 week. And I was there because it was a beautiful area. It was an absolutely phenomenal place to spend the summer. I was at the state park and I was a campground host. And the focus of my talk with you today is people as I meet them and greet them and walk around, ask me, well, how do we become a campground host? What's it all about? What kind of deal do you get? Things like that. So I wanted to put this video together to answer some of those questions and to maybe give you some insights on, the highlights and some of the challenges that come along with being a campground host. So Steamboat Lake, Colorado is about 30 miles north of Steamboat and Steamboat Springs. It's in the middle of nowhere. It's literally almost at the end of the road. There are two roads that go to Wyoming, and they're both dirt roads, gravel roads, and one of them is closed in the winter. So Steamboat Lake is really out there. That meant that if you wanted to go into town to get anything done or get your shopping done, because the nearest supermarkets were about 30 miles away, you had to go down there and plan out your trip. And one of the things that I did was I purchased a portable refrigerator, like one of those little 40-quart things over at Walmart. And that was extremely helpful to me to be able to load up the food, because it gets hot in Steamboat in the summer. I mean, there were a lot of days this summer in Steamboat Springs where it was in the 90s. And you can imagine how well that meat and poultry and fish and things like that would keep if you just threw them in the car, the truck, or whatever, and drove them back. Even if you went directly back, it's still a 45-minute to a 1-hour drive. So what is hosting? Hosting is, in most parks, from what I know, and I'll speak specifically from my experience, a volunteer position. You're not paid. However, you're also not paying for the space that you're in. And most RV parks during the summer get $500 or $600 a month, so you're certainly saving $500 or $600 right there. And of course, they're giving you your electric and possibly other resources as well. And I'll get into that in a second. You can become a host by looking up your state parks, any state parks, doesn't have to be a state you're a resident in, and national parks, and possibly even Bureau of Land Management, and you can see about what kind of hosting is needed in that area for any particular period of time. And this can be done year-round if you wanted to. There are people that do a circuit. They'll do one season in one park and then go another season to another park, or they'll do a month and then go on for a month. Not everybody hosts for 4 months. I mean, there are a lot of people that would like to host only for about a month, only for about 2 months, and that can be done. That's part of the program that the state parks are prepared to handle. Now, what they want from you is about 20 hours a week. Actually, in Colorado, a minimum of 20 hours a week. So if you think about it on a 7-day basis, that's about 3 hours a day, primarily in the morning. And for those 3 hours, what you're doing is you are putting out reservation cards, setting up their, most campgrounds in a state park and in the federal parks have posts, so you know who belongs there. And in Colorado, there were 2 spots for the card, who belongs there and who's on deck. So the lower spot would be who is coming in next, or coming in within the next few days. So it was my responsibility to put those out. It was my responsibility to take them away as soon as the reservation was expired. It's also a responsibility of a host to go out and meet the campers, advise them in a non-threatening way of some of the rules in the campground. The 2 big ones that we had at Steamboat Lake were pets must be on a leash, and the vehicles must be on the gravel. They can't be on grass. And of course, that's for a number of reasons. So most people were cooperative. Most people were friendly. Most people are out there to have a good time. And This park is not one that you just stop at along the highway. This is one you got to drive 30 miles in, and you're definitely not on your way to something else because you have to go in and out. And I think that that had a impact on the caliber of campers that we got. I'll put it that way. Generally, a very high caliber of campers at Steamboat Lake State Park. My additional responsibilities were keeping the fire pits from being filled with ash. They gave me a few cans to fill up and then some barrels at my site that the maintenance guys would empty once they got filled with my little cans of ash. And that was something I enjoyed because it was good exercise. And they also wanted me to do a little bit of weed whacking, primarily along the perimeters of the campsites to keep that from getting too overgrown. They did spray at the beginning of the season, so that kind of eliminated any real problem there. So, and yeah, it is 2F by T, the Rush Limbaugh tea, and it's very good stuff. So anyway, benefits. I had time to do my thing. I was able to explore an amazing area, the Zirkles, the wilderness north of the park, some of the other lakes in the area, Hans Peak Lake Campground, Pearl Lake, which is another lake associated with the state park. I also had time to do business. You know, for me, I earn my living online, and many of you follow my videos. You know that. You know that I've got a website, alansills.com, where you can get information on that. And you know, I needed to make sure that I would be somewhere where I would be able to enjoy nature, have a good time, meet people, and be social, and at the same time get some business done. You're also in Colorado, and I think in most state parks, you're limited to 14 days if you want to stay as a camper. Beyond that, it's at the discretion of the campground office. So as a host, I was able to stay in what I viewed as paradise for 4+ months. So that was a big deal to me. That was great that I was able to stay put, really get to know an area, get intimate with an area, enjoy the area, and then move on from the area, which I've done, and which I'm going to have a couple other posts that'll share what I've done since then, because I really love the adventure of travel. Some of the challenges that I ran into, I showed up early. I got there on May 2nd. There was still 2 feet of snow on the ground in places. I went cross-country skiing on May 7th. And because I was there well before any of the campers would get there, the earliest real campers we had was Memorial Day weekend. I had added responsibilities that were asked of me so that I wouldn't just be freeloading, and I appreciate that. But it involved, to some degree or another, things that I'm not particularly good at or familiar with, like caulking sinks or planting trees. Someday, get me on the phone personally and ask me about a tree planting experience. During the season, probably the only challenge is there's an underlying feeling of being on call 24/7. So that if I was going into town, I almost kind of felt like I was abandoning my post. If I took a weekend off, and I did need July 4th weekend, I had a very important engagement in Salt Lake City that I attended, and I had told the Rangers well in advance, and they were very gracious about it. There was no problem at all. You need the weekend, you take the weekend. There were a lot of campground hosts that were in other campsites in the area, or camp loops in the area, that would take a 5-day week, and then the other 2 days, the Rangers or the kids who fill in as summer Rangers would fill in the the space for them and get some of the other responsibilities done, like getting those cards out, things like that. And also, I would take a walk around in the evenings to meet people, and also to see that everything was copacetic in the way it should be. So they're minor challenges when you really think about it. What to watch for? I'm looking at my notes here, teacher. I gotta. Internet access. For me, it was critical. I mean, especially since I'm building business online, I needed internet access. What kind of hookups do they have? What I learned, and I went into this thing semi-blind. I mean, I had heard, well, we're going to have electric, we're going to have water, although it took them about 3 weeks to get the water wired up to me. They had to get a guy who was going to, run a hose and all that kind of stuff and make a PVC pipe. But the big thing was there was no sewer. What there was a gray water tank, so I could dump gray water very easily. But they gave me a macerator pump for the black tank. And that meant that I was having every 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And I live on my own, so if you've got more people with you, you're going to do it more frequently than that. To set up a hose up to one of our pit toilets and run a river of poo from my RV through the macerator pump and up. It would pump it up to the pit toilet, and yeah, it was literally uphill. So, that's just the nature of it. I mean, again, understand what kind of hookups you're going to be dealing with. And understand it's a government operation. So that when you see things that you say, well, if this was a private company, they would invest money here if they had the money to do it. It doesn't work that way in a state park, and I'm sure in the national parks, there are agencies and there are groups that approve things, and those groups that approve or deny things may not be on site. They may be at a very great distance. So, these are all things to be aware of. Overall, I would say if you go to Google or you go to the state park of the state you're interested in and start searching around for camp host opportunities or camp host jobs, it's a good thing. It's not real labor intensive. Like I said, it's about 20 hours a week. It still gave me time to enjoy nature and do my business online and, meet some people and have some fun. And I may be back. I don't know. I may be looking for other pastures next summer. I believe that this winter will bring me back to Steamboat Lake. Everything on track for that. And I'll be back on the mountain almost every day and teaching ski school and also doing some free skiing and loving it. All right, Alan Sills, thank you very much. Wanted to share that and just let you know. Take care.